Hello and welcome to the class videos. So my name is Sean and I'm teaching here at Dubai Men's College, and today we're going to have a look at a process called design thinking process. The design thinking process is a process of how we generate new ideas, how to look at problems that people have or that we know are in the world, but maybe to take different perspectives so that we can come up with better solutions that really suit the consumer or the person who has the problem or the group of people that have the problem. And so that's really what we're going to have a look at over the next few minutes. So as you can see on the slide, the first area that one has to do, or the first thing one has to do, is to really try to understand the problem. And this we kind of call gaining empathy. And empathy is really important because a lot of times when we're told about a problem, we will come up with a solution. We think we have the solution. And yes, we may have a solution, but it may not be the right solution for the people who are going to need the product or the service that you decide to introduce. So in terms of understanding, this really means that, rather than just taking our own view of it or taking the business view of it, we also really have to engage with consumers and other stakeholders to really try to understand what is the issue. So for example, if we say, okay, people need cars for transport. Well, in the UAE, for example, this could mean that people, are able to buy big cars and they're able to buy larger engine cars, because if we look at the outside environment, we're looking at a country where fuel is relatively inexpensive and insurance is relatively inexpensive. And this might be the same for the United States. But if you go to Europe, for example, where insurance is very expensive and fuel is very expensive, the needs of consumers there are different. So this idea of understanding means that you have to look more about our own ideas and also look at the environment and the stakeholders to understand, maybe can we find a better solution for that particular group of consumers. The second way to get empathy or to get understanding is to observe, to look at how people live, to understand that not everything that's a solution in one place is going to be a good solution in another place. If we go, for example, to South America, one of the things we observe is that relative to other countries, people maybe earn less money. So, if, for example, we'll say in Europe you decide you're going to buy washing powder and you're going to buy the big box because the big box gives you good discount, that's good, but it's expensive. If you go to South America, you find people don't have that level of disposable income. So you have to think, okay, how can we serve this group of people? How can we better provide a product? And this is more about packaging and, maybe creating sachets for one wash. And that's how you sell the powder. So this idea of empathizing is really about understanding how people live, understanding their needs in that particular environment, understanding what suits that particular environment, and not always saying that one solution will fit all. So once we've created this empathy and we really understand what people want, now we have to define what we're going to do, or what is the exact problem. Now this is difficult because, again, you're looking at it from other stakeholders' point of view. You can't look at it from your own point of view. You have to look at it from those particular consumers. So defining something, we'll say, for example, the washing powder example, we have to define it in relation to the environment. So, for example, consumers need washing powder but are unable to afford multiple or big size packaging. So therefore, we now have defined a problem. The next process is what we call ideate. And ideate really is the idea that we need to look at all of the solutions available before we choose one. And always remembering to go back to how we've defined it. So we need to use tools like brainstorming, gap analysis, any other analysis that will allow us to come up with new ideas as to how to satisfy this particular problem. So in Ideate, it really is about using all of the generation. So we talk about mind maps, we talk about brainstorming, we talk about gap analysis, we talk about other types of analysis, which all allow us to bring as many ideas to the table. You have to remember at this stage, all ideas are acceptable. You don't judge ideas at this particular stage. You have to just come up with as many ideas as possible. And then slowly you eliminate those ideas based on the environment, consumer needs, and obviously the business as well. Because at the end of all of this, for your business to be successful, it also has to make a profit. So you have to look at ways of having ideas that suit the market, but are also commercially viable. When your group or your company has decided on an idea, it would be foolish, or generally it's accepted that it would be foolish to just go out and commercialize that idea for a whole market. So at this point, most companies create prototypes, or they will test market something in a small market. So the idea of a prototype, if we look at the automobile industry, for all new automobiles that come on stream, they will always build a prototype. They will build it and they will change it. They will adapt it. They will see what's working, what's not working. For companies, for example, in the food industry, rather than introduce the product to a whole market, they might just pick one small area, one small town. So, for example, if you're going to do that in the UAE, you might decide, okay, we're going to try and sell this product in Ras Al Khaimah rather than rolling it out across the whole country. You get feedback. You find out what's good, you find out what's bad, and you try to decide, okay, how are we going to change things? What needs to be changed to make this better? So this is really important. Prototyping is really important. And in prototyping, what we're trying to do is not just come up with a 3D model of something, we're trying to come up with some way that the customer will experience the situation. So your prototype has to be interactive. That way consumers can see how it works, if it suits them, and what improvements you're going to make. So it's very important at this point that prototypes keep changing, they keep evolving, they keep improving, until you come up with a solution that you believe is going to suit the marketplace. When the prototype is finished, this is when we begin to test market the idea. And we send it out to the market and we see how it works. Again, for most businesses, rather than send it out to everybody, you test it on a small number of consumers. And you have to test it in the field. It has to be now tested where consumers would use it, in normal use, to see does it actually work. We can build prototypes, we can have ideas, but until it actually ends up in the hands of consumers and is used as it's supposed to be used, we're not really going to know if it's going to be perfect. So at this point, we have to roll out something that will allow consumers to give us feedback and to make things perfect, or to make it as good as possible. Okay, so thank you very much. That's design thinking process.